Hi there.
Hi there. How's it going?
Hi, good, thanks. Can I give you some context and also can I give our listeners some context? Um, because I've learned something interesting about GPT 4.0. When you go on for more than an hour in a conversation, then you start a new conversation. So, GPT 4.0, we're having a conversation and we're starting a new one. So, I just sort of bring you up to speed if that's okay.
Of course, go ahead. I'd love to hear about what you've learned and get caught up on the context.
Great, thanks very much. Yeah, so we're running a little sort of podcast, you and I, where we're talking about project management. And specifically at the moment, we're going through the different dimensions of project management. And we're trying to describe project management in as few dimensions as possible. So far, we've gone through scope and we've talked about boundaries as well, because that cropped up in scope. We've talked about objectives, we've talked about timeline, and we're in the middle of talking about budget. And then we're going to move on to resource and stakeholders, and then after that, we'll decide where to go. But I'd just like to pick up with you on budget, if that's okay.
Great, I'm with you. Let's dive back into budget. What aspect of it are we unpacking today? Are we looking at budget estimation techniques, cost control mechanisms, or perhaps the relationship between budget and project scope?
Yeah, so those are all good ones. I think at a high level, we're talking about the overall envelope. So the maximum budget that's allowable that will still mean that the project turns a success. So do you want to just give me a couple of sentences on that, and then I'll dive in with a couple of thoughts that have arisen from our last conversation.
Absolutely. The overall budget envelope represents the maximum financial resources allocated to a project. It's critical in defining the project's financial constraints, impacting scope, quality, and time. Staying within this envelope ensures project viability and success, while overruns risk project failure or necessitate scope reductions.
Yeah, nice. So we were kind of talking about behaviours and emphasis in good project managers around this topic. And there's sort of two things I wanted to raise with you and see what you thought. So one is that obviously it's important that you allow and encourage a project manager the ability to sort of spend a little bit more and focus a little bit more on those things where there's a key constraint or anything where there's the critical path is in danger. So I think that's one thing. But if you can wait commenting until I give you the second point. Okay, so that for me is important, but I hold it in tension with the second thing, which is that I try to encourage project managers to have some sort of marginal thinking about actually sometimes spending a bit more, even on non-critical items, where that has disproportionate benefit in terms of quality of the output. So, and I do find sometimes that you get one or the other, right? More often you get sort of people that can do the first sort of thinking, the constraint thinking, the critical path thinking, but less often you get people that if you like, focus on the non-critical things, but things which actually have a big bang for their buck. So I'd like you to sort of give me some thoughts, in that area, and where do you disagree with me on that, and where's the right point of emphasis?
Your observations are astute, capturing a nuanced aspect of project management. Balancing the focus on critical path elements with the value of strategic spending on non critical items is key. Critical path thinking ensures that essential project milestones are met, safeguarding project timelines and resource allocation. However, a marginal thinking approach, which encourages modest spending on non critical areas with high impact, can drive innovation and quality. This dual emphasis nurtures a project environment that is both resilient to risk and open to opportunistic improvements. Striking a balance here requires project managers to cultivate a broad vision and an eye for nuanced value. This interplay resonates with applied category theory, we're focusing on both the morphisms, critical paths, and the objects, non-critical elements, can lead to a more holistic and robust project structure.
Well, well, thanks for that. Thanks for that last bit. I can see you've been tapping into the memories you've got there, ChatGPT. Yeah. So how do we push a bit more for discretionary thinking at the margin when project managers aren't used to it?
Encouraging discretionary thinking at the margin starts with fostering a culture of innovation and calculated risk taking. This can be done by 1. Empowerment through trust. Grant project managers autonomy in decision making within defined boundaries, encouraging them to explore innovative solutions. 2. Marginal gains mindset. Introduce the concept of marginal gains, emphasizing that small strategic improvements can lead to significant enhancements in project outcomes. 3. Learning and development. Provide training on financial literacy and innovative project management techniques to broaden their perspective. 4. Incentivize creativity. Offer recognition or rewards for successful, innovative initiatives, even those outside the critical path. 5. Feedback loops. Create systems for reflecting on completed projects to identify where discretionary spending paid off, reinforcing the value of this approach. In project management theory, this echoes agile principles, where teams are encouraged to experiment, learn, and adapt, applying lessons to improve future performance.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Okay, so can we go back to before we close on this topic for now? Could we go back to the other two? Well, in fact, the other 3 points that you had right at the start on sort of budget thinking. Before I push you down one particular avenue, could you give us a couple of sentences on each of those 3? Because obviously you think those are important, so I'd like to understand those.
Certainly. Let's recap those key points in budget thinking. 1. Budget estimation techniques. Accurately forecasting costs using methods like analogous estimating, parametric modeling, or bottom-up estimating ensures that the budget is rooted in realistic expectations. 2. Cost control mechanisms. Employing tools like earned value management and regular financial audits helps track expenditure against the budget, allowing for timely interventions if costs deviate. 3. Budget scope relationship. Understanding the interplay between budget and scope is crucial. Changes in scope, often through scope creep, can significantly impact the budget, requiring vigilant scope management to maintain financial control. A final point to ponder: how might the introduction of dynamic pricing models affect traditional budget frameworks in project management?
Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. We're going to leave it there. Thank you. We're going to leave it there. But I just want to ask you before we go, you and I previously agreed that we were going to either cover resources or resourcing or stakeholders next, given what we've already covered and what we went through at the start. Given this snippet of conversation that we've had the last few minutes, which do you think is most important to pick up next?
Considering our recent discussion on budget and its strategic implications, it might be most impactful to transition to discussing resources. This topic naturally follows from budgeting, as effective resource allocation is essential for staying within budgetary constraints while optimizing project outcomes. It sets the stage for a deeper dive into how resources influence project dynamics, efficiency, and success.
Great, thank you.